Hey guys, welcome to Don's Little Hobbies, and today I just simply want to talk about All Might. And, I just had this one question from kind of the day that I first started reading My Hero Academia is, why does All Might have shadows over his eyes? It seems like a question that you generally wouldn't ask, but I don't know why. It just popped up in my head one day, and I simply have to ask it. Why does All Might have shadows in his eyes? Well, if you go for the real source, it's probably just because he looks cool with shadows upon his face, makes him look like a mysterious but awesome manly hero that Hokoshi, which I butchered the guy's name constantly, so my apologies, but the creator of Boku no Hero Academia, My Hero Academia, he probably just liked the character's design and kept it. That is about it, okay? But here's the big question, is there an inside universe reason why All Might always has shadows over not just his eyes, but his face? Why is All Might always in shadows? I think I might have a theory to explain just why, and it has nothing to do with his injuries, which I think is actually going to be pretty cool. I hope you guys do like the video. Like, share, subscribe for more My Hero Academia, and let's get on with the video, okay? So first off, let's actually talk about what we do know about All Might. So, number one, we know All Might is the #1 greatest hero in My Hero Academia. We also know that his power is called One for All. We know that there is a villain called All for One, and All for One gave him a gruesome, terrible injury in a battle that he had with him 5 years prior to the series beginning. Okay? Now that is all important that we do know that. We also know that he was trained by Gran Torino, but his master was of course called, and I'm going to butcher this name, I'm going to butcher it, Nana Shimura. I know I butchered that name, especially the end of it. Was it Shimura? Shimura? I have no idea. I believe her first name is Nana, though. Yeah, Nana is the 7th user of the quirk One for All, and of course, All Might is the 8th quirk, and he was looking for a successor, which he, of course, found in Deku, which, of course, is the 9th user for One for All. And, yeah, that's all we know about All Might. We really don't know much from his past when you actually look at him, do we? But I think I might have a reason why he has shadows over his eyes. So, here's the thing. The answer could be he just has shadows over his eyes because he's always had them. I mean, every time we see him in both the manga and the anime, he has shadows over his eyes. Whether he is a young kid, or whether or not he's in his superhero form, whether or not he's in his injured normal form or not, he has shadows over his eyes. But does he always have shadow over his eyes? Here comes the movie. My Hero Academia, the movie, has a trailer. And in that trailer, this image comes. In this image, you can clearly see All Might doesn't have any shadows on his face. Now, this could seriously just be because it's a creative way to show that All Might is really young in this photo, while he isn't later on, and, but if that's the case, this is the problem with that. Number one, he's in his muscular form, and number two, this is young All Might from the anime, and there's a picture of this in the manga as well. This is young All Might. This is young All Might being taught by Gran Torino, and obviously there's shadows over the guy's eyes. So, does this mean that the power that he's got, does the power causes the shadow over his eyes? And I answer no, because he's obviously in his muscle form when we see him in the trailer. And look, he that's his muscle form. I still think that All Might probably looks more like this and then can transform into his muscle form. Because here's the thing. We know that he can do that anyway. We might have theorized that it was because of his injuries that he was doing that, but perhaps that wasn't the case. What if you need to have about 50% control of the quirk, all for one, before you can master the muscle form? And of course we know from My Hero Academia that All Might has control over his quirk almost from day one. He has control over his power, all of his power, from 1 to 100%, and can control it almost from day one, almost. Now, Deku, of course, we know in the anime, can only control 5% at the point where he is right now. So he's clearly nowhere near what All Might had, but I'm pretty sure as soon as he is able to train his body more and get used to the power all for one, one for all, eventually he's going to be able to gain a muscle form just like All Might. Now I also have to ask this: what is All Might's age? Do we know his age? I looked it up. I cannot find All Might's age. So, and it's important to the theory. It'll come in later. So we need to figure out what is All Might's age. And I think I have a really good guess. My guess is when we first meet him in My Hero Academia, I think he's about 34 or 35, maybe 30, 33, 34, 35, somewhere between that. And that's perfect because that means 5 years earlier, around 28, 29, or 30 years old, he would be at the end of it, but he would still be in his prime, which means he would be primetime All Might against One for All when he got his injuries. And another reason why I say that is because if you look at All Might, while yes, he does look like a skeleton, he really does, you will notice that he's not very wrinkly and he doesn't have white hair. Of course, the white hair thing doesn't matter because it's anime, but he just really doesn't look that old. But he acts like he's older than he usually is, and that's usually what people middle age usually act. And my best guess would be in his mid to early 30s, you know? And that means when he was fighting One for All and got his injuries, he was probably in his prime time All Might, because your prime is usually between your 20s and 30s anyway, so even if he was at the end of that, it would still be prime time All Might. And I really do believe that All Might is past his prime, not just because of his injuries in the anime, but I believe that he's basically past his prime because of his age. And being 35, if he was 35 years old, it would make perfect sense. Yeah, he's past his prime. That's what I believe. So we figured out All Might's age. Now, it's going to be important later on. Now, simply, when you take into account about the movie, here's the thing we know about the movie. All Might doesn't have shadow over his eyes. And look, he does have shadows over his eyes when he's older as well. Look, here I'm going to show you a picture. So this picture is from episode 1, and it's when Midoriya is watching that video of All Might saving 100 lives in just less than 10 minutes. It's the first time that All Might made an appearance, apparently. And it was in some big disaster that quote from Deku, says was taken a long time ago. Now, what does a long time ago means? That could mean just before he was born, you know? I mean, the kid's like, what, 15, 16 years old now? a video that was taken anywhere between 10 and 20 years, that's a long time ago to me. So I don't think that video that we saw of All Might saving people was like 50 or 60 years old or something like that. That'd be stupid. That'd be crazy. Yeah, anyway, look. If you look at All Might in that image, he has shadow over his eyes, but he doesn't have his cheekbones showing. The shadows aren't over his cheeks. He looks like a young All Might, but here's the thing. When we also see him later on in the episode and for the rest of the series, he has those cheek lines. And obviously, that's because of his injuries. Why did I say that? Because he also has them when he's in his normal form too. They're obviously there. He looks like a skeleton. Even when he's in his super form, he looks like a skeleton. But he doesn't in that old footage. That's important. But he has shadows over his eyes. So what the heck is going on? Because in My Hero Academia Season 3, My Hero Academia, the movie trailer, we see that All Might doesn't have shadows over his eyes. But that's when he was young. So what is going on? I think I found out why. Here's the thing. I think it has to do with the death of his master. And this is why. This is why I say that. Because All Might, look, if I had to guess, when we see him in the movie, and we don't know if we're going to go back in time and see All Might in the past or not, but this could obviously be just a backflash to when All Might was younger, when we might even be able to learn what actually happened to All Might's master. All we know is that One For All killed his master. Look, I think that All Might, before his master died, had no shadows over his face and was happy and joyfully, and he had the quirk One For All, One For All, and he can just basically muscle up, use his muscle form to become a hero, and that's basically it. He was able to go from his normal skinny version to his muscle form like that from basically day 1 or day 2. From, because he had control of his powers, basically, he says almost from day 1. So that's important to know. But here's the thing. This is the reason why I think it was his master's death that caused those shadows. Because it is an anime trope that in anime, whenever something sad happens to the characters, they always show like a shadow over their face and them looking down. What if All Might never, ever again, after the death of his master, lifted up his face for the sun to see his eyes? What if the shadows over his eyes in his superhero form, and even when he's trained with Gran Torino, it's just because he's sad about the death of his master and he just never got over it. And of course, with One For All still out there, he obviously is in even more sorrow and pain because of the loss of his master. And now that he has his injuries, now he can never go back and lift his head in the light because his eyes are probably shot in the back of his skull because he's a skeleton now. Let's face it. All Might is pretty much a zombie. In fact, I'm pretty sure they made a couple of zombie jokes in OVA a little while ago. It's actually pretty funny that he looks like a skeleton, but anyway, yeah, I think it's because he lost his master. And that would just explain everything. Now, where does his age come in? I know you guys are going to be asking that. I say when we see All Might in My Hero Academia, the movie, young, I think he is going to be 17 years old. And why is that? Because 17 years old All Might would, I think, still have his master, still be learning from his master. his master could probably die. We could probably see the death of his master in the movie if they go back in time and meet young All Might. We might see the death of his master, and we might see how All Might gets those shadows on his faces in the movie. They could do that. I simply don't know what they're going to do with the movie. I absolutely can't wait to see the movie. But anyway, it would explain why he has those shadows, and it would explain with him being 17, because if you remember, Gran Torino only taught him for 1 year at UA, and high school in Japan is 3 years. Deku is going to go to high school for 3 years. All Might was at school for 3 years, so I think the first 2 years was with his master Nana. His master died, and then he started training with Gran Torino when, of course, he was 18 and in his 3rd year of school. And you know what? That scene with him saving everybody in that disaster footage could actually be footage taken from the leftover fight between his master and One for All when One for All killed his master, you know? I think All Might have faced One for All 3 times. I think the first time he obviously faced him would be alongside his master, and when his master died, he got the shadows, and that would bring, if that's the case, that would bring so much more power to that scene, because here he is, laughing and smiling, saving lives, trying to say that everything's going to be okay to everyone else, when he's holding back the tears with shadows over his eyes because of the loss of his master. And he is obviously still quite young in that video, because obviously he hasn't gotten his injuries yet, because if he was injured in that original video, he would have gotten the cheek lines that he has in My Hero Academia later on. So yeah, I think All Might just is probably was probably just at the death of his master, and in My Hero Academia, the movie, it probably takes place before he lost his master, so that's why he doesn't have shadow over his eyes. And I seriously just think that eventually we might actually get to see him with his smiley face grow shadows over his eyes because of the loss of his master in the movie. And of course, with his injuries later on, he obviously has them now because he looks like a skeleton. But that's what I believe. Let me know down in the comments below if you think that any of my theory is true. I have no idea if it is or not. I'm just a fanboying out. The real reason why All Might probably has shadows over his eyes is just because he looks pretty cool with shadows over his eyes. That's about it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'm out. Bye!